Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I today am only joined by my esteemed co-host, Cody Sizemore, and I have quite the question for him today. But before we jump into that, Cody, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Got my gallon of water next to me. So, I'm staying hydrated. It's important,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everything's going great. Can't complain.
Wonderful. Well, you could, but I'm really, really grateful that you're choosing not to.
I'm not going to.
Yeah. I think that's so important for us to just kind of remind everyone that we all have choices. And a lot of times we say we can't complain, but we could. And I'm glad that you're not. Okay. So before we jump in, let me just remind everybody of all of the housekeeping things. We would love to have you in our Facebook group. I know last time we met, we talked about how there's a new name for it. It's the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. So if you're looking for that, type that in Facebook, and we'd love to have you join us there, where we talk about things that we mention here on the podcast, but also just some of the things that are going on in our personal lives. And so I would love, if we could today, talk about one of the things that Cody has going on in his personal life. I tell you what, he started telling me about this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And could we please share this with our listeners? So he gave me permission to jump into that a little bit today, and I think you're all in for a treat. Okay, so we've talked about on here before, Cody, about how incredible you are and how lazy I am compared to what you do. And so I would love to just kind of, compound that a little bit today. You're doing something that I had never heard of before. It's called a rucking marathon. And for those of you who might have just misheard me, it is rucking. And I'm not actually just saying that to try to keep this clean for any listeners who might be listening. I had never heard of that before. I think you described it as throwing on a 40-pound backpack and doing what most marathon doers do, and that's just run. We joked about how I don't need to add a backpack because I definitely have the 40 pounds on you. And now that we're past all of that fun bantering, I would love to hear a little bit more about, seriously, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so couple things. Rucking is kind of what you just described. So it does require you to wear some sort of weighted backpack. It doesn't have to be 40 pounds. It could be 10, 20, 60. It could be whatever.
So you're a slacker then. You're going low.
Yes, technically I am a slacker. But I have chosen the 40-pound route. And another thing too is that typically you don't run. And that's a big reason as to why I like it, is because I have really, really flat feet, extremely flat feet. So running really tears up my shins quite a bit. I get shin splints. So I started rucking, and that's, you power walk with this weighted backpack on. And it's way less impactful on your body, but studies have shown that you get a better workout from rucking as compared to running, which is it's like the best of both worlds. So that's what it is. And like you had mentioned, I'm doing a marathon. And for those of you who don't know what a marathon actually is, because maybe you don't like running, you've never even thought about doing a marathon, so it's out of sight, out of mind. It's 26.2 miles. So I decided to do this for a few reasons. So first and foremost, I am currently on my 75 Hard program, which we've talked about several times on this podcast before. And, you might be listening to this and you're like, what the heck does this have to do with financial coaching? We're going to bring that full circle. But there's a lot of lessons that I have learned from the 75 Hard program, and I've done it so many times. And those lessons I have intertwined into my coaching as well. A lot of it has to do with mindset and, just mastering the toughness of your brain to help you push through certain things. And it develops certain qualities like consistency and grit and fortitude and perseverance and self-belief and confidence and all that kind of stuff, all of which is very important with coaching, So there's a lot of lessons and a lot of teaching points that I've taken from this program alone that I just integrated into my coaching. And I think it makes a really unique experience for people. Now it's not like a boot camp style of coaching. It's just more so very, very focused on your mindset around challenges and turning trials into triumphs kind of thing. And, I've done this program like 4 times. I've done there's a sub thing, that's not just 75 days, but it's a whole year, which is called Live Hard. I've done that twice. And, it's a challenging thing. But I've gotten to the point to where I've done it enough times that I'm like, yeah, it's difficult and it's challenging, but now I'm kind of used to it. And it doesn't
challenge you to the brink.
Yeah, I don't like that. So like, even like today, I'm on day 73, so I'm almost done. And I was going through, the program about a month ago. It was around like day 30 or something. And something I've always wanted to do was ruck a marathon, but I just never did it. And around day 30, 35, I was like, now is the time. Now is the time for me to just pull the trigger on this damn thing and just do it. So I made the decision that I was like, hey, like on day 76, when I'm technically off the program, I'm going to do a victory lap and I'm going to ruck a marathon. And, I did the math because I do a ruck every day, and usually I do it for about 45 minutes to an hour. And the marathon is going to take me about 10 hours to complete.
I was going to ask if this is like a, couple days that it's going to take you, but no, you're doing this in hours.
Yeah. About 8 to 10 hours, depending on my pace. And also, if I were to take like a 5 or 10 minute, like break kind of
Pit
thing
stop.
to like rehydrate or eat a snack or whatever it might be. So I'm doing a little bit of play in there, but yeah, about 8 to 10 hours. And, the reason that I wanted to do this was it hits on 3 different levels. So first and foremost, I wanted to do this for myself. I want something to break me. And as weird as that sounds, I know for a fact that, Maria, you're listening to me say that and you're like, why? and there's probably other people listening to this now and they're like, why? But I really do. Like, I really want something to push me to my breaking point, because I've just found over the last, 2 years of doing something like this, I found that I get into my best form when I'm intentionally putting myself through challenges. And it's not just my best form for me, but for everyone around me. So that's one reason as to why I'm doing it, is because like, I just want to keep growing. And I'm a firm believer that if you're not growing, you're dying. There is no staying stationary. That doesn't exist. Like, you're either growing or you're dying, period. And I'm not willing to die. Like, I want to keep growing. And this is just something to help me keep growing. So that I'm doing it for myself first and foremost, but I'm also doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my kids. Because, I have 2 kids. One is almost 2. He'll be 2 in January. He won't remember this, but I have another one who is 9, and she's definitely going to remember this. And I want my kids to have a role model to look up to that, does hard things and does them because they want to. Like, a role model to show these children, hey, like, you shouldn't take the easy route. You should actually actively choose to go after hard things, because what typically happens is that you go after the hard route and then it leads to an easier life. versus going after the easy route, it typically leads to a harder life. And this is just something that they can see, like they don't see a lot of the business. They don't see a lot of the finances. They don't see a lot of that kind of stuff, but this is something they can see and they can actually like take it in, and take a lesson from that, so it's a big reason for me to do that for my kids. And also, my wife as well, like same thing. It's the same lesson, the same reason for her as well. Like, I want her to, take that lesson for herself, but then also, just reinforce the reality of like, hey, like you married a hard, mother effer. You know what I'm saying? Like
a rucker. You married a mother rucker.
A mother rucker. That's right. Yes. And she should be proud of that, and I should be proud of that. And to know that it doesn't matter what comes up in life, whether it be financial related, career related, relationship related, or even like a physical thing that is related, that she is going to have someone in her corner that is there to protect her and to provide for her no matter what. Right. So that's another reason as to why I'm doing it. But the third reason as to why I'm doing it, and this is how it's tying into financial coaching. The third reason why I'm doing it is for my clients. And I haven't told any of my clients that I'm doing this. I haven't. And the reason I'm doing it for them is because I have my own story. I have my own stories about going through trials and, pushing through that and, meeting my best form or my best life or, whatever it might be on the other end. I have my own financial journey. I have my own career journey. I have my own living situation journey. I have a lot of things that I can pull from, but I don't have something like this to where it is, completely mental and also physical, that when you're in that moment on mile 17 and, your legs are just killing you, your toes are bleeding, your back is killing you, like all that kind of stuff. And every ounce of energy that you have is depleted. And you just want to, there's nothing more that you want to do than just to call it quits. But then you keep going. That kind of mindset, that kind of mentality, that kind of lesson can absolutely be super valuable for our clients, because maybe they're not doing their own marathon, physically speaking, but they are doing it with their money. And life happens. I can't tell you how many times that I've been with a client and something, dramatic happens, whether it be a job loss or a loss of a loved one or, a major financial setback or whatever it might be. And they just feel like they just want to quit. They just want to give up. To have something like that and pull out of your back pocket and just be like, hey, like I know exactly how you're feeling mentally because I've been there. I've done that. It adds a different level to your coaching. It makes it a lot more impactful, I feel. And, if you can bring that impact and you can bring that value to the table for your clients, then you then become more valuable as a coach, and that's a really, really big reason as to why I'm doing it. So that's why.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely incredible. First of all, because you want to have this experience experienced by some of the people who are watching you, I'm curious, are you going to have any portions of this recorded? Are you going to have your wife out there? And okay, good. That's great.
I have
I'm
a
glad
videographer.
It's going to be documented. Oh, you went big time. All right. Very good.
He's not going to join me for the whole thing.
He's like, you can't pay me enough for that.
He's gonna like be at the beginning, maybe like around mile 17, 1, and then the end kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do have someone to document it so that I can, have it for myself. But then also, to even just send it to these clients and just be like, hey, like, I'm not just telling you that I did this. Like, you can literally watch it. you know, and you can see in real time, like what I was going through, how I was feeling, what I was thinking, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've thought about all that.
Awesome. So I am also curious to know if there are setbacks, because they will be. What is more important to you? Is finishing more important? Are you wanting to make sure you get it done in that 8 to 10 hour time frame? Like, what if it takes you 11 hours? Is that going to be considered a disappointment for you? Or are you just going to be like, praise Jesus, I am done and I'm still alive? I'm just kind of trying to get a sense from you. And the reason I'm trying to get that sense is because I know that that's how a lot of our clients, they show up and they say, this is my goal. This is what I want to do. And they kind of sometimes set themselves up for disappointment when they absolutely should be celebrating something. I'm just kind of wondering where you're at with that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. My goal, which is non-negotiable, is that I finish.
Okay. That's your no matter what.
I don't care if I do it in 6 hours. I don't care if I do it in 12 hours, but I'm going to finish. And I also don't care if I'm crawling across the finish line. Amen. I'm going to finish, you know? And that's a really, really good question, because if I was going into this and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it within 10 hours, or I'm going to do it within 8 hours, or whatever it might be. And I don't hit that, but I finished, it would feel like a failure, but it's not a failure, you know? And I was actually talking to my dad about this past weekend. I was just talking about my health journey in general. And every time that I tried to lose weight or get into better shape before I started doing 75 hard, it was the way that I went about it was like, hey, I want to lose X amount of pounds by a certain day kind of thing. And I would map it out like every week, like, here's my weekly goal. And
because that's how we're taught to do it all, right?
Yeah. And oftentimes I wouldn't meet that weekly goal, 3-4 weeks in, and then I would give up. And I was like, that was the problem. Instead, now that I've taken the approach of like, I'm going to get there. Like, I know I'm going to get there, but it's more so about just doing what I said I was going to do. Even if it doesn't matter, even if it takes me a year to get to where I want to be physically, or 5 years to get to where I want to be physically, it doesn't matter as long as I do the things that I said that I was going to do. And that's the difference between having it be like a measurable thing on external versus an internal achievement, right? And it's the same approach that I'm taking with this. I don't care how long it takes me. I don't care if it takes me 2 hours. If I'm flying, cool, like whatever. I just know one thing. I'm just going to finish. I just know that. And I wanted to do this before I do it, which I'm doing it in 3 days. And I also wanted to do one after. I want to have a discussion about this afterwards too, to talk about those things that came up. And one of the reasons as to why I decided to do it before is because like, I want it out there that like, hey, I'm doing this. And if I don't do it, then everyone can write in and send me hate mail and all that kind of stuff. But hey, I'll just tell you right now, I'm going to do it, So yeah, I actually was reading, this book. So do you know who David Goggins is?
No.
Oh, Maria. Oh, man. You got to get hip with David Goggins. So David Goggins he's known as the toughest man alive. Okay. He's not the strongest man alive. That's something that people get mixed up. He's not the strongest man alive. He's the toughest man alive. And his story is basically like, hey, like, I was 300 pounds and I was an exterminator for rats and cockroaches and all this kind of stuff, but I had a dream of being a Navy SEAL. So he tried to enlist into, the Navy, and they basically said, you are not physically fit, and our next camp starts in 3 months, and sorry, but you're not going to be able to make the program. Not even close. And he was like, well, what do I got to do in order to do this? And they were like, in 3 months, you have to lose 125 pounds, at least. So this guy went out and lost 125 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he went through Hell Week and all that kind of stuff. And he does things like run ultra marathons, which are 100 miles with zero training.
Wow.
Zero training. And he's like peeing blood, and he's got like, feces rolling down his legs and all this kind of stuff. But his mentality is like, I'm going to finish. And he's done Ironmans in 50 states over 50 days and like all this kind of stuff. And his biggest asset to himself is just his mind. He's mentally tough. He's not the strongest guy, even though he did set the world record for pull-ups. Wow. He did 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours just because someone said that he couldn't do it. Again, no training. Wow. Someone says, you can't do that. And he's like, watch me. And then he did it, Wow. And like, so I was reading his book, and that's what really inspired me to do this. And there was something I was reading this morning in his second book. What's
the name of his book, if you may?
So his first book is called Can't Hurt Me.
Okay, thank you. And the second
any coach out there, if you want to read a book about overcoming trials and adversity for yourself or for your clients, you should absolutely pick up that book. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And then he has a second book that he just came out with recently, which I'm currently reading, and it's called Never Finished. Right?
Never Finished.
So I was reading Never Finished this morning, and he talked about how there's those moments when people quit. And he talked about how, like, when you're at the peak of suffering, when most people quit, that's like when you decide to quit something when you're in the peak of suffering. So he was talking about Hell Week and ringing the bell to like get out of, the program or whatever it's called.
Right.
He was like, that's a very emotional thing to do. Very, very emotional thing to do, because you're in that moment and everything in your brain is just saying, just stop, just stop, just stop, just stop. And it's usually not based off of logic. It's usually based off of emotion and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, you should not quit during those moments. The only time that you should quit is when things are actually going well, because at least then you have a level head and you have time to process things, and you make sure that you're quitting because it's good for you, not because you just feel like it.
That
right?
Makes good sense.
Yeah. And he was like, Hell Week is, I think he said, it's like 130 hours to get through. And he was like, it's not even about the hours. It's not about the days. It's not about the minutes. He's like, it's about the seconds. It's the seconds, because it only takes 1 second to decide that you're going to stop. It only takes 1 second. So he's like, if you can be so focused on those seconds when you're in something like that, and just decide, like, if I can make it 1 more second, 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 over and over and over, eventually you'll get on the other side and you'll accomplish the thing that you want to do. And I read that this morning and I was like, that is like perspective bomb, like, holy cow, And that's the kind of perspective that I'm going to be taking with this, is like, hey, I know that there's going to be a moment that I'm going to be like, why am I doing this?
Just
like,
one.
I don't need to do this. I don't need to prove it to myself or anything like that. But it's going to come down to those seconds.
Yeah.
And I need to, have the mental strength to just keep going. And that kind of lesson is what's really going to shape not just who I am, but also how I show up for what I'm called to do on this earth, which is coach people with their finances, because it hits so many different aspects of people's lives.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I can't wait to see when your videographer takes it all and kind of splices it and makes it just like a fantastic little commercial for what you do. I think it will be absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to break you. Just throwing that out there. I know that's the number one reason that you want to do it. But I just know you, it will strengthen you. It will push you for sure. But I know you're going to come out of this. Absolutely. And you're going to find what's the next challenge that I can put myself through, because that's just you.
I was just about to say, if it doesn't do that for me, then I'll be like, okay, cool. I did that.
Mm-hmm. Now
what else can I
do? We're going to go 60-pound rucking, because now you're slacking. I love it. And like, I know that you're the first person that I have heard the term rucking, but you're not the first person that I've seen. Once you described what it was, I remember, oh yeah, one of my former coaches, I saw that he was doing that and mentioned, throwing a backpack on with some weight and power walking and stuff. So I think that's actually a really cool thing. And I'm thrilled to hear that you have flat feet and that you're still able to do that, because that's one of the reasons that I don't do a lot of walking, is because of that. I have the same problem. Actually, I might have too much arch in my foot, but I get a lot of like the plantar fasciitis. And so that can be pretty painful as well. And maybe I'll just have to try that and throw a few extra pounds.
Yeah, I
have the pounds, but I can throw some on my back. I do have actually a specific question about that. Now, this is not about coaching. It really is about rucking. But I am curious, what do you put in the backpack?
Weights.
Just weights.
Yeah.
And then
some people put, it depends on what you have. Like some people put sandbags in, kind of thing.
Okay.
But I bought a rucking backpack, and it has like these rucking weights, which is basically just like a big rectangle kind of thing.
Okay,
with like a
that
handle
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that it's shaped is that it basically hugs the back of the backpack. So there's no like jostling around when you're walking.
That makes more sense.
It's really nice and tight. So, that was a big reason as to why I did it.
So is the weight itself built in such a way that it's adjustable? So like it can, maybe this needs to be invented if it hasn't been, but where it can start off like a 5-pound weight, and then you can add on to it, like,
I'm sure they have those, but
you just bought a 40-pound.
Single 20-pound plates.
220 pounds. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Well, I know I'm not going to have an opportunity to see you again before you actually do this. So Godspeed to you. I think it's absolutely incredible. I really do appreciate you rethinking the idea of sharing this with our listeners, because I know that I can't be the only one who is exposed to your crazy, amazing self-torture. I'm glad that we were able to share this with our listeners as well, because I know there are so many amazing lessons in there. And I cannot wait to see you on the other side and have another discussion about this very thing when we come back from this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Not sure how I'm going to be feeling afterwards, but I'm excited.
Well, I tell you what, we don't need to meet again until at least a week after you're done. So you can let your blisters all do their things and try to heal a little bit. And I'm sure you'll show back up smiling for our listeners and our people who are watching us, and just be able to give us some of the lessons that you didn't even know were coming, that are right around the corner for you.
That's one thing I think I'm really excited about the most, is like, I know that I'm going to get something out of it, but I don't know what I'm going to get. And I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, as always, Cody, thank you for your vulnerability on this show. We really do appreciate you sharing what's going on behind the scenes in your life, so that we can all take lessons from that as well. Anything else that you want to share for us before we wrap up this conversation?
Yeah, if you haven't tried to push yourself recently, here's your sign to do it. Find something. It doesn't have to be a marathon, but find something to push yourself, because there's going to be a lot of benefits, not just to yourself, but everyone around you. So if you got that thing that you've been wanting to do for a while, but you just haven't, go do it.
Yeah.
And then tell us about it in our Facebook group.
Well put.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, you guys, thanks again for showing up for another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. We look forward to seeing you after the Rucking Marathon. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes, and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.